All right, welcome. And this is video number 3 on the channel. So, what are we going to do today? So, today I'm going to share my thoughts on Seen Unseen's episode, that I think came out last week. And this is like an episode with this person, Gurwinder Bhogal, where he's examining human nature, right? So, even before I sort of get into talking about why this whole thing, right? So I love, listening to Seen Unseen. I think when 2020 really happened, uh, this was a time when I started binging, I think, so many episodes of The Seen and the Unseen, the podcast with Amit Varma. In case you have no clue what I'm talking about, do check out. Uh, and then some of the reason why I also like this, whole episode podcast, what he talks about is that it's so much close to the actual reality when it comes to how we end up thinking about the world versus how we end up, learning about it through the academic life, the exam life, and all these things, right? Uh, so in reality, you are, told through textbooks. How exactly the world functions. But then on a deeper level, that you really end up saying that, okay, people don't end up functioning in that sense, right? So those are all the reasons. And then as the intro goes of the, whole podcast, uh, economics, political behavior sciences, right? So all of these are some of the things that, also help me understanding, the world in many, many ways, right? Uh, so there's that. That's about seen and the unseen. Like listening to, you know, the podcast. I think the time when I ended up coming across the whole of the podcast, I think I binged about 150 episodes over a span of a couple of weeks, and then I think it took me like 3 months, and then I also remember that sort of was the only podcast that I used to listen to at one point of time when really 2020 happened. I really liked the episodes. And also that sort of happened because I think for the first 50 or 60 episodes, all of his podcast episodes were pretty short as compared to, what they are right now, like 6 and 7 hour episodes, right? So lots of interesting topics which I like to know more about. And the other interesting thing is all of these guests that end up coming to his podcast are very, very, people that are not, of course, some people are there from the mainstream. For example, Ramchandra Guha, the author of, okay, I should not get that wrong. Uh, Ramchandra Guha. Yes, yes. So that's him. So of course, some people are there who are pretty well known, but there are also some people who are not so well known, right? So it also gives you like a good chance to explore about people who are, doing lots of good stuff, are knowledgeable about the world, have their opinions, have their views, have their, thought process around a particular thing, have their thoughts around the world in a particular sense. And it's good to follow these people, right? As compared to the, massy content that we end up seeing on Twitter and all of these platforms. So, about this episode, let's first try to understand who Gurwinder is. Uh, till the very time this whole episode came out and I saw it on Google Podcast feed, my Google Podcast feed, I did not quite know about Gurwinder, right? So let's try to see him. And then let's jump into what this whole thing is about the episode. So he happens to be a contributory writer to this particular website, Rabbit Hole, which says Go Deeper. It says he is a British Indian writer, has worked in all of these different places around the block, counter-terrorism, sorry, extremism think tank, Quilliam, and that's his Twitter. Let's quickly take a look at his Twitter as well. Okay, so not so much on Twitter, but he does have a pretty sweet following there, right? Like he has like 125K followers. And also in the podcast, he goes on to talk about how he ended up getting so many followers and, this kind of stuff that he ended up contributing to it that led to this whole thing, right? So that's his Substack. I'm not sure if it again talks about who he is, but okay, right. So anyway, let me just look at some of these posts that are there. Then those I think will give you like a thoda sa idea about uh who Gurwinder really is. So he talks about one particular post in the podcast as well, and it's about why smart people also believe in stupid things. Cure to misinformation is more information. TikTok, his thoughts on TikTok. TikTok is a ticking bomb. Stoicism, the ancient remedy to the modern age. Intellectual obesity crisis, right? There's like also he's featured in a conversation with Chris Williamson. I honestly do not know who that person is. So yeah, let's try to understand him through his posts. 40 mind expanding concepts in spring 2023, 10 ways to avoid being fooled, knowledge for paid subscribers Feb 2023, 10 reasons your beliefs are probably wrong, Devil's Digital Dictionary, some thoughts on Elon, Chat GPT, meaning of life. I think this is something that I would like to see, definitely check out, but looks like it's paywall. uh Drama Get On, the virtual civil war, 40 mind expanding concepts winter 2022. Oh nice, the Elon, Kanye and rationality. Again, something on stoicism, humanity's great threat, how to stop procrastinating, culture war. And so a person around again in I think in the space of thinking, decision making, and uh most of it, of course, he I think he studied philosophy. He talks about that particular thing in the episode as well. But then most of the stuff that he ends up talking about, thinking about, and talking about in the episode is something that came from his own reflections, his own things that he ended up seeing in his life, and that led to him producing content around this particular field and theme, right? uh like again, sort of before we go in, let's see how so what are some of the tweets that he has shared. uh, uh, right, so again, some similar stuff. uh I think we're good to get started with the uh thoughts on this particular episode. So let's just also see what this talks about. It says the description of the episode says it's not the world that's the problem, is flawed in many ways. And if you think about it, Gurwinder joins Amit in the episode 331 of Seen and the Unseen to talk about his interest in meta-cognition and what it reveals about us and the world, right? So that's him. And again, some amazing recommendations here as well, right? I haven't been able to check out this whole thing very properly, uh, but one thing for sure is this book, Super Forecasting. Amazing book. Will really help you, think about like your own lens through which you look at the world, and how wrong can you be, and how even how people who can predict stuff, how wrong can they be, and also in a way, some concepts like group thinking, concepts like how predictors try to predict things, uh, what's their thought process and how they look at the world and all that, right? So amazing book. I did read it early this year. And I think the biggest takeaway that I took from this particular book was the whole concept of group thinking. Of course, just through the name, you get to understand what group thinking is, as in how people end up thinking, reacting, or, ended up reacting to a particular situation as a group, uh, versus if in now that you know how most of the people are going to react to that particular thing, how you can react to that particular thing because you know how the majority is going to react, right? So I think, of course, on the surface level, it's something, that you can broadly understand, but then the book goes deeper in, many, many ways. Uh, so yeah, great, great recommendations. Love the episode. And also not just that, this episode I think happens to be for just around 2 hours, as compared to most of the recent episodes of Amit's podcast. So really liked it. Lots of things to talk about in the episode, and also while I was listening to the episode, I did make a point that I will take down notes of what the stuff that I like to talk about. So I think about 20-30 minutes into the episode, I thought, okay, this is something that I would like to, talk about and, have a video around this particular thing. Okay, I think let's get started. So what exactly is something called hubris? Hubris. So let's take a look. Also, I don't quite want to get wrong. I don't want to like create a presentation and then, deliver it like a lecture. I just want to explore stuff in the way I end up exploring things, right? Uh, so yeah, like a long format video in which this whole thing works out, right? So the fact of somebody being too proud, a character with his pride usually dies because of he or her. Not quite the definition that we were looking for, but okay, okay, huh. So yeah, so essentially, like we have something longer. So English picked up both the concept of hubris and the term for the particular brand of cockiness from the ancient Greeks, who considered hubris a dangerous character flaw capable of provoking the wrath of gods. Absolute Greek tragedy, hubris was often a fatal shortcoming that brought about the fall of a tragic hero. Typically, overconfidence led the hero to attempt to overstep the boundaries of human limitations and assume a godlike status. And gods inevitably humbled the offender with a sharp reminder of their morality. Right. So when I probably was reading this definition, thing that came to my mind was some people on Twitter uh, having some very strong opinions about things, right? And again, for sure, it must have happened that you would have been reminded of something while I was reading this whole paragraph. Uh, it could also be a person in your life or something like that. But yeah, so that's basically hubris. And the whole episode is about, talking about stuff, which is, some people getting really confident about things. And then it's just the fact that they are not completely aware of the second side of the coin. That is the reason why they are so, you know, uh, confident about their own argument, right? Uh, and again, how I sort of like to see the world is everything is relative. Everything is not, everything is gray. Stuff is not just black, just white. Uh, but yeah, the world is gray in many ways, right? So that's hubris. Okay, so like sort of have a checklist, to-do list format this time, so that once the topic is covered, I can put a mark across this. But of course, if I want to like jump again into that particular thing, we'll talk about that, right? So that's not restricting, uh, you know, this particular report. So confirmation bias, right? So what exactly is confirmation bias? So don't quite have an example, but basically it's about people essentially seeking validation in some or the other form to what they already are doing. Now, let's say you happen to have a opinion about a particular thing. For example, that Bombay has horrible public transportation. Okay, that's your opinion based on your lived experience. And if not lived experience, then you must have heard this particular fact, this particular line through people, through it could be a person that you knew, and that person suffered personally because of bad public transportation in Bombay. And then you end up being in a group where people are talking about that particular thing, and then they're all cribbing about, okay, the transportation in Bombay is pretty bad, right? But there's one person in that group who says, okay, now it's still good. Like I can still manage it. There's the metro. A lot of things are getting covered. The coastal road project is happening. Metro lines are getting extended. Local ka frequency बढ़ रहा है and all those things, right? Uh, Probably like looking at the brighter side, right? And also trying to say that and he's also backing his opinion, his view through stuff that's happening around, right? Like he's looking at the positive side. But then you still end up saying, and because you have this strong opinion based on your lived experience and uh, you know, whatever is the source of your particular opinion. But you'll try to bog down that person in a way. Most of the people would try to bog down that particular person because uh, confirmation bias, right? So that's in a way, simple confirmation bias. Now, I think one thing that I did not really cover about enough about what this whole episode is around is it's around thinking, decision making, a lot of personal views of Gurwinder, his lived experience, his whole story of life, how he came to, talk about this particular thing, uh, having so many good thoughts around this particular concept, and how people have been wrong, how people have been wrong when, the times when he really wanted something to happen, but then people ended up, doing something really stupid, which the product did not want them to have. I think there's also a law for this. Forgetting the name, but yeah, make a note of it. Right. So yeah, all those things, right? Uh, so that's the episode is about, and then quite liked it, really liked it, because in a way it again makes you feel and think and realize that a lot of people are wrong. I am wrong. Wisdom is in knowing and understanding that you are wrong, uh, and that you need to constantly sort of reevaluate your own opinions, beliefs, uh, thoughts around things, and be open to things in general so that you are relevant, right, in life, and don't restrict to one particular thing. Uh, because all those thoughts, all those things will probably get you stuck in situations in which you will still not be able to recover. Of course, again, what I'm saying is also in a way wrong, and it can be, altered. It can be, uh, uh, you know, not getting the right word, but it's wrong in some or the other way. Of course, what I'm saying, there are some exceptions to what I'm saying. Uh, but yeah, like that's wisdom in a way, right? Like that's how the whole thing is. Now, he again sort of, I think he happens to have like a philosophy degree, so the episode also sort of turns pretty philosophical in a way during some of the parts of it, which I also sort of liked. And again, I think philosophy is something that is really around the opinions of people, where they are coming from. Some of it based on their lived experiences, and some of it based on their own thoughts and reflections, right? So quite liked it. Uh, Overall, I did get some, solid material. And then at the end of it, of course, it's not like just another podcast, that's around there. It's like it's seen and the unseen. So the guests who end up coming to the episode are also, are of a particular caliber. Uh, so some solid stuff, right? So not a lot of general fluff. Some solid stuff that is, going into the episode. So at a point of time, he talks about, you know, truth. What exactly is truth? So, truth is something that helps you make better decisions in real life, right? So that is how Gurwinder puts it. Quite like the definition. I don't think I quite have a lot to talk about this, but I think I'll cover parallel points around this particular line in the rest of the uh, video, right? So that's about truths. Uh, Now the episode did go in, talking about when and how a lot of people say that, oh, okay, like there's something that's going to happen, right? This is something that will happen in your life, right? So all the crooks, all the people who are trying to predict the future in a way, astrologers, and all those things, right? So they try to predict things, but then about your particular life, and you probably like go to them, astrologers particularly. Uh, but then where are these people when, you know, can they not predict stuff like floods? Can they not predict stuff like stock market crashes, right? So, of course, in many ways, some people actually, of course, like predicting floods is something like a real thing right now, right? Scientists do that. There are machines, equipments, and all those things which are right there in the sea, so that you get to know what exactly is happening, right? Uh, so yeah, so that's there. So and also when it comes to stock market, a lot of people try to predict it in their own ways, and they have their own concepts around this particular thing. But then where are the magicians? Where are the astrologers when they are, trying to predict things when it comes to real life situations which will affect a lot of people? Where are they, right? So the very, again, something not covered in the episode, but something is, uh, how they operate is, and also tarot card readers. Yes. So, there's something called Barnum effect. So Barnum effect is basically the tendency to accept, the true types of information, such as character assessments or horoscopes, even the information is very vague and worthless. So basically, they end up telling you stuff which is so broad that it'll probably fit in your situation. It will also fit 10 other people in that same situation. Once they once they have thoda sa information, and then they'll tell you something that will, fit you. But at the same time, try to understand that the same set of information, the same set of sentences that are, thrown at you, it will also stick with 10, 15 other people who are coming to that particular astrologer, right? So that's Barnum effect. Now, so that's about magicians, and all that. So in fact, let me like talk about, one of my experiences when I actually went to an astrologer, paid him like 40, 50 bucks. This was during my Pune days. And I just, two of my friends, we were just going from the hostel to, just roam around. We had like a free evening that particular, day. And then I thought, okay, I mean, what's there to lose? I can, definitely share out like 50 bucks, 100 bucks, and give it to this particular person to see what exactly the whole thing is. He ended up, predicting that you are like a special son, and, the wealth is going to be there. So nothing, very solid that really came out of this person's mouth. But the way that he said it, it was pretty convincing. No kidding you, no kidding, right? And then while I was deluded, and again, I was pretty young, right? Like I think I was in 2021 back then. Uh, I ended up believing this particular person in a lot of ways, and then I'm just glad that I had, two of my friends, and they told me, "Oh, okay, uh, calm down. You need, what he said is something, वो किसी को भी बता सकता है," of sorts, right? So that's basically about, magicians, astrologers, and all those people, like Barnum effect. Now, the next point says, if you cannot predict the future, then you have insufficient information or wrong information in many ways, right? So again, pretty much we'll agree to this line. Don't quite have an example for this, but for now, we'll go to the next point. And again, as I said, everything sort of is your own delusion that you are there, and you are just living life in your own delusion in a particular way. Um, you might have, worked to get wherever you are in life, when it comes to maybe finances, relationships, or pretty much anything. But again, it's sort of like a delusion in many ways. It's like, whatever is happening in your life, uh, you try to rationalize it, put out your story to people in the best possible way. Some people will, of course, buy your story and join you in your journey. But hey, like that's basically life. That exactly is life, right? including this video, right? Uh, I do have like a follow-up video which I want to do around, looking at life through the Sisyphean analogy, right? So I'll talk more about this particular thing in that video. So for now, closing this point as well. So uh where is the place where you end up seeing people who are wrong? The easiest example is social media, right? So again, particularly Twitter, which the episode talks about. So Twitter, and again, as I initially talked about this in the episode, in the video, that a lot of people will have like strong opinions around things, and then in many ways they are uh, wrong because they don't quite know the other side of the story, and then they don't quite happen to have developed that particular mindset that will make them be open to other things, right? So you'll see like a variety of things across places like Twitter. Some people will be pretty much pissed at something, but at the same time some people will say, oh, okay, like this is that's that is okay, right? So people sort of end up coming with their own biases, right, which are wrong, which hold them back. uh, and it sort of also helps them in one particular way if they are a part of one particular group, and then if that particular groups behave in that particular way, then it helps them, of course. uh, but again, you are wrong, right? You are wrong in every particular way. Yeah, and also sort of disclaimer before we go into the rest of the episode, that whatever I'm saying in this particular episode is not something that is very much true to what exactly was said in the podcast episode, but it's something that's coming from me. It's my own interpretation of what was talked about in the episode, right? So yeah, that's basically social media. Uh, People are wrong. People don't know the flip side, and that's why they happen to hold on to their own opinions, their own stuff, right? Now, initial introduction, I'll just read out the points so that I, understand what's here. And also sort of like, it's been, I think, about a week when I had seen the episode, but I'm recording the video like after a week. So initial days of the internet, for the guests, you have the best information on the internet, but they don't end up taking. So, Gurwinder also happened to work, during the initial internet days, and then what really happened was, they were putting out some very solid content around stuff, uh, which is, oh, okay, this happened, oh, okay, this news happened, oh, okay, this happened. But then a lot of people, what they wanted and ended up doing was, BuzzFeed content, right? So, BuzzFeed content, as in they wanted like, oh, okay, three quick ways to do this, five quick ways to do this, five quick ways to get your communication better in 10 minutes, right? So they wanted Vesa stuff. They wanted stuff that will validate their own thoughts. They wanted stuff which is easy. And also the next point is, it's a very basic human desire to, and it's a very basic, it's very, very basic in the human nature to not really work on the stuff, but just have some quick, half-baked answers which a person will talk about, and then you sort of feel, ki, oh, okay, this is something that I need to do. This sounds easy. This is dumbed down so that I can understand this, even if it's wrong. And then they continue with that particular info, right? So there's that. Uh, and again, like one quick, of course, there are multiple examples of this, but then think of it, right? So I think, to my best knowledge, there's also like an incident that I would like to mention with this particular point. But I think a third of the whole traffic on the internet is pornography, right? Uh, so try to imagine that, right? Like one third of the whole volume of the internet is pornography, right? So that people just want stuff that's pleasing, that'll hit their dopamine receptors, and get them going in many ways. Uh, again, great examples around how BuzzFeed sort of became popular, BuzzFeedy type content, and a lot of other people followed with that particular format, right? So the example that I want to talk about is, I think in one of the episodes, again with Seen Unseen, I think Prem Panikkar was the guest, and he had mentioned during his Yahoo days when and this is again just one of the early days when the internet was just picking up and people were using internet for as a means of consuming valuable information which would probably end up getting through newspapers, right? So that switch was happening. And then later, what they realized is, okay, like since a lot of other websites were also popping up, and then people would spend, as compared to today, people would spend like a limited slot of time during their day browsing the internet. So they'll end up going to websites that will give them quick stuff, easy answers, you know, dumbed down stuff. But then they'll not really come on Yahoo, right? Yahoo India particularly. So at a point of time, even though the content was solid, they had probably the best writers, back then. They still had to optimize their headlines, their initial set of words, paragraph of that particular article, so that it's catchy enough so that people end up reading. And also it happened that they started with something. They started their sessions during the day. Okay, this is something that we need to work upon, this is the story that we need to cover. But then also during those meetings, what would happen is their day would end up getting started with, okay, this is the review from yesterday's articles and this is how many people ended up clicking on that particular thing. So the whole incentives ka game changed. The whole incentives game changed, and they had to modify their very solid content, which is life saving, which is talking about the world, which is something that humans should process, understand, know about. But then they were ended this is how they were ended up, this is how they were starting their day, right? So that would happen. And again, Gurwinder says that, oh, okay, this is not a problem with, and it's no one's problem, right? It's no one's problem. No one is to blame here. And the person or the thing that needs to be blamed here is the human nature, right? So human nature is something, basic default human nature is something that will really want stuff to be get done quickly, easily, uh, even if you need to do, like take a shortcut to that particular thing, which is again not sustainable. So that's human nature for you. That's, understanding human nature for you. Right. So, before I go to the next points, so he talks about a particular, it's not covered in the points here, but he talks about, when it really came to his own realization, Gurvinder's realization that, okay, this is how people end up, consuming information. This is how they like to consume information. That's why the whole thread boy thing came on Twitter, right? Like, okay, this is something. Give me like 5 tips in which I can, enhance my chat GPT in the next 2-3 minutes. Of course, to some extent, it is going to help you once you use that particular tip. But then, what are you really going to do with it, right? Unless you can apply that particular thing in your work, in your daily life, uh, it is pretty much useless, right? Just like it's just like having like the best product, but then not really having any practical use of that particular thing, right? So that's basically so yeah, this whole realization came to him. And once he got to know, oh, okay, this is how people like to consume information, I would like to have a lot of people consume what I am saying uh, through my writing, through Gurvinder's writing. He ended up creating threads around his, thoughts, mental models, and all those things, right? So that happened, that moment happened. And again, if you sort of see, uh, you know, look at this, right? And if you probably are there, sort of try to, you know, predict as well that what is it something that I'm going to show you now, right? Oh man. Uh, so yeah, you can. I think probably by now you can sort of predict what I'm going to show you now. Uh, yeah. So this, right, like the thread that sort of like became the most viral thing ever on the internet is how to get rich without getting lucky. Yeah, like why that's how novel really started out. Uh, in fact, that this thread, of course, he had been writing in many ways, in many forms, through Twitter and all the other things. And of course, he's a pretty celebrated person. Lots of you know uh, respect to this man. Have And of course, I say this only after I've consumed enough of his content, enough of his thoughts, enough of his words. So uh, this thread is something, how people like to consume information, right? Uh, it's quite a long one, but then if you see the whole format, once you see this headline, it's very tempting and high chances that you would not like to skip whatever this is. And also, once you see the number of likes, the number of quotes, the number of retweets in this particular thing, you will understand, oh, okay, this is something, and it's already gotten validation, right? It's already gotten validation from all these people, and then uh, you would definitely not miss this particular thing. Now, it also, clicks on the right set of words. How? uh, Everyone wants to get rich. And then a lot of people think, oh, okay, there are some circumstances which are holding me back in one particular way. Probably it's luck. And then he says, without getting lucky, right? So what on earth is this? What is it really, right? Uh, so of course he talks about a lot of different points. We'll not go into that particular thing. Probably I can, do a video around his thread as well. So we'll see. So yeah, it's quite a long one. So that's what really happened with Gurwinder as well. He ended up creating some threads, and that's so he sort of became, popular. Uh, and people ended up started following him on Twitter, and that's what happened. Right. So yeah, that's something new. Straight up on podcast expounding how to get rich. I'll add the episodes here. Right. So again, a lot of content around this. Right. Okay. So going back, right? So bunch of points, uh, right, to talk about the rest of the video. So it says that use tactics of jihadists to spread info, short, concise, easy, digest to influence. So if you see how people get influenced, right, like once you understand that particular influence, and again, like in many ways, that's how religion works, right? Uh, there's like one particular person who would tell you, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. This is how, idealistically a lot of people do. There are some amazing good stories. There are some amazing people out there because they followed this and that's why this happened, right? Uh, I'm not saying that definitely it's good in one particular sense as long as you take that particular thing with a pinch of salt and take it from the right medium. It is right as long as it helps you. Uh, and it's like in a way subscribing to a school of thought, right? uh, Now that school of thought could also like be a religion, and then you try to preach that religion, you try to understand that religion, and also live with that particular thing. So uh, a lot of pundits, a lot of and pandit, I mean not in that sense, but pandit as in a person who's knowledgeable. uh, so a lot of people, they know the trick to do this, right? And then if once you understand human nature that it wants natural dumbed down answers, uh, then that same thing can be used to spread information that's good. That same thing can be used to spread information that's not so good, that will harm someone, right? Uh, Also, if in case you might have seen, some of the interviews of Ajmal Kasab later, what happened is I remember watching like a video, one of his interviews, and then he talked about, okay, once he goes to heaven, there will be, something waiting for him. basically he was brainwashed in many different ways. If you also sort of know his backstory, what will happen is you'll get to know that he had a very poor background. They didn't quite have his family didn't quite have money. I think his father had like a pakoda shop or something. I might be wrong here. Uh, but all these problems, and then someone out there comes to him and says, oh, okay, this will happen, and then your life will change and all that, right? And then they also tell you, okay, you need to do this. This is your sacrifice which you need to do, and then once you reach heaven, this is something that will happen. So think of it, right? So, and that same, like that human nature wala way which needs easy answers, it's also used to do stuff like this as well, which is pretty bad. So yeah, that's that's there. Okay, pretty heavy, but for now, like let's go to the next point. So this is like an incident from the episode. Uh, uh, I might get wrong towards the end of it because I don't quite exactly remember what happened. Uh, but yeah. Do correct me if I'm wrong here in terms of the story. So when it comes to biases, right? So there's like this incident from the episode where he talks about there's this girl at school, and while they were playing Ringa Ringa Roses, a guy held this girl's hand because like that's sort of like how this happens, right? And then the girl didn't quite accept that. Why? Because the guy was brown, right? And this happened in the UK. So the guy was brown, the girl was white, and then the girl didn't quite agree to hold hands with the person who was brown. Uh, right? And then why she sort of was coming, and these are small kids, okay? These are small kids, and also they are in this zone where through some probably might not be coming from their parents, but then someone must have told this particular small kid, oh, okay, like this is something that's uh not there, right? Like the racial discrimination, right? Color-based discrimination. So she must have heard it from somewhere and then also put it into practice, right? Because someone had told her she had seen this particular thing somewhere, and then it's also there, like it's happening with kids, right? So now what happens the next day? Uh, so the guy, the kid being he applied his own brain, and then he got some talcum powder, and he's had it on his hands, and then, oh, okay, see, now I'm not brown, I'm white, so let's do this. So this happened. Now imagine, right? Kids having to go through this because in the world someone somewhere out there thinks that racial discrimination is justified, right? So that's how the world is. And think of it, from the little guys and the little, the children's perspective. They don't quite know enough. They are not there. Of course, they are not there that they can process information, have their own rationalization behind things, and then say that, oh, okay, this is something that I would not like to do. I would not like to hold your hands because you are brown, right? Uh, Something has already been feeded to the little girl, and that's why this happened, right? Which is again pretty bad. So that now coming to the next point. So just quickly read it out. If you bucket yourself in one thing, then you need to believe what is said and told and happening in that ideology versus what you would like to be believed in that particular in his own thoughts. Uh, right. So simple example is a lot of cults which are around there, and then they try to preach things through one particular way. Now this could be like one particular thing that says, eating meat is bad, right? But then once you sort of try to question that, oh, okay, why is it bad? Why is it not happening? Uh, of course, there would be, like a million stories that would rationalize this particular thought and how it really came out to be. But then once you are part of that particular cult, once you believe that particular thing and you'd like to live with that particular thing, with that particular cult or that organization or whatever that is, uh, it's difficult for you to get out of it, right? And also sort of preach some things or live some things which are not there, right? And then a lot of people try to bucket themselves into one particular thing because it's someone has said this is how it happens here, and that's why I follow this, rather than okay, this is something what happened with me. uh Based on this is what my experience was, and this is why I do not do this, and or this is why I do this, right? So that's basically the point about. Okay, so right, I'll come to this particular thing towards the end. Right, so let's talk about this point for now. Okay, so one way in which you can understand that how right you are is just see and just try to predict things and see if you are right. है ना? And in case you are right, then good, then you're not deluded by something. And as much as possible, try to make non-trivial predictions about the world. Now, this could be okay. Let's try to understand what's like a non-trivial prediction example, right? Okay, let's see. Let's go to Quora and see what exactly is a non-trivial prediction. Like, of course, in a way, I do have like an idea about what exactly this is, but I want to, have it through an example. Might as well use ChatGPT for now, but let's see. Uh, uh, hmm. Right. So, bunch of examples here. So, yeah, Jan LeCun's 1998 means deep learning model was used in most of the ATMs that to read checks and also use USPS to read zip codes. RN models are used by your iPhone's autocomplete, Siri, text to speech, fun, non-trivial cases. Auto startup uses CNN to drive commercial trucks without truck driver. Numerous startups are making self-driving cars. In fact, you'll be able to go to work without driving. Healthcare is also going to be a major sector. Google, DeepMind Health, IBM Watson, multi-billion investments. I'm still not able to get an example. Uh, Truly innovate deep learning is generating AI. Okay. Use cases of deep learning. Okay, we got the wrong thread here, but okay, I'm gonna pause the video and look up something and then we'll continue. Okay, so just open up Chat GPT. Let's see what non-trivial prediction is. Uh, and also, I sort of just want this to happen, live during the video because I also want to understand it through this particular thing. So predictions refer to predictions that are not immediately or obvious and easily deductible from existing knowledge and information. They go beyond simple extrapolation or common sense and often involve complex analysis, pattern recognition, and integration of multiple factors. Science, technology, fields, data analysis, often made use of sophisticated computers. So basically, like trying to predict, the chances of, winning a football tournament for a particular team, right? Examples of non-trivial predictions. So yeah, right. So predicting the weather, predicting the stock market, disease outbreaks, so sports results, as I said, technological advancements, demographic changes, right? So all these things, the solid stuff, the research backed stuff that's around there, is basically a non-trivial prediction. Right. So it says, uh, you, if you would like to see how right you are, then try to predict all these things, and then you'll know, okay, like this is where, what will happen. This is where you might go wrong. This is where you do not have incomplete info or wrong info. I think this point also came in the podcast episode when they talked about the book Super Forecasting, right? Uh, so yeah, let me quickly look and see what's this website about. Okay, not sure. Anyway, I'm gonna delete this. Okay, so delusion. What is delusion? Again, as I said, we are all living in our own delusions. The world is a pretty big place. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's just that you've done stuff, so that you can sort of predict what is going to happen tomorrow. For example, right now, I am recording this video at 9:45 p.m. and I think in some time I'll get my dinner, right? So that's all I can probably say, about my day. Probably I will, after the dinner, I might walk for some time. I'll read a book. Okay, yeah. Like I also need to, do some processing for this particular video and also upload it on YouTube, right? Uh, so all these things I can predict about myself, but then something unexpected might just happen some or the other time, and then, uh, yeah, that's basically delusion, right? So delusion again, like this is I sort of went somewhere else, but then uh, what the episode talks about is there are of course some echo chambers. So echo chambers is like one of the words that Amit always uses in the episode, in the podcast. So echo chamber being that, a person sticking to a set of people sticking to a set of beliefs, just like a cult, and then those set of beliefs, they once sort of become big enough so that others also need to follow them and join them, because incentives are in place for that particular thing. uh, for example, let's say you happen to be working at a place that's very authoritarian, right? Now, since you need to earn money, and then in case you do not have any other option, which has like a better work culture, you stick with this job till the time uh, you feel convinced with it, right? So there's that, and then you'll try to go out once you feel that it's hindering you in some or the other way, or there could be some other reasons as well, of course. But yeah, in that particular work environment, if they follow one particular set of rules and you really cannot question that particular thing, then it sort of becomes a problem, right? If in case, of course, as long as you are a person, there's like one person who is very much following, likes to follow, likes being told what needs to be done, likes being, followed a particular set of rules and all that, right? Till then it's good, like it's gonna work for them. But then once they realize, oh, okay, there's also, grass is probably greener on the other side, right? Like, okay, I can do a lot more as compared to what I'm doing right now, and also live happily, a lot more happily. Uh, and then they'll try to go somewhere else, right? So that is something that usually happens in some echo chambers, or probably in the circle of academia, where uh, uh, you know particularly about academia, he says that there are a lot of people who have written quite a lot of stuff, uh, have given lectures on a lot of stuff, but then they've not really tested their beliefs in person, in real life, right? So this is the point that he makes. Okay. Don't quite have anything else to talk about this point. Okay, for now. So I'm going to the uh in the real, yeah. Yeah. So that was the real world, which was, the point there. Okay, and the last set of points, which is uh so smartness or even intelligence is not, or rationality is not like a measure, is something that you can measure through your IQ, but it's through it's a function of how you approach and pursue truths, and he says that curiosity and humility are two of the things which really help you in many ways. right? So again, don't quite have an example to talk about this, but sort of like this particular thing. Now, for example, when it comes to like a stressful situation that happens, in a relationship, so what happens? So like, what's your coping mechanism? Uh, you know, do you just isolate yourself, probably, not communicating well with the partner, not communicating well with the other person, and then just isolating yourself, uh, leaving them hanging and all that, right? Uh, Without any particular clue, right? So that versus having a good set of, you know, ammo so that you know what needs to be done, you're communicating well, and all those things, right? So to approach that particular situation, to resolve that particular conflict, and of course, if it's uh, bad enough, then or harmful enough, then probably even go to the extent till that the relationship ends, right? So how do you process all these pieces of information? How do you come to a good conclusion? How do you do that particular rationalization? What's your coping mechanism when dealing with such situations? How do you end up doing that, right? Do you only end up doing that, how that situation had been handled at your home, versus you knowing enough about the world through books, through, good communication, good content, how you would like to pursue that particular information, right? Uh, so that's basically pursuit of truth, making good decisions through that particular lens. Uh, right. So there's that, and lastly, intelligence is how easily you are able to achieve your goals as compared to others, right? Now, it's again, there are a million examples to talk about this particular thing. Let's think of an example. Now, the example being, let's say, uh, in fact, let me take this example. In fact, it happened, in the evening, this evening today. So, we happen to schedule a particular call for a particular, project that we have. Someone initiated the call, and since I'm also a part of the project, I was going to be around the call as well. Now, the person, who suggested the time, uh, this person said that, okay, can we do the call in like 10 minutes? Now, at that particular point of time, I was outside. I said that I'll be back in, let's say, an hour or so. And then we can, I didn't quite mention that, okay, we'll have this call later, or, we can probably push it for tomorrow. But that's what happened, right? Had it been the Bishop from probably 2020, from 2020, 21-year-old or 20-year-old Bishop, Vrishabh would have absolutely agreed to that particular call. Vrishabh would have probably done stuff so that Vrishabh would be able to attend the call, even though if it's not happening at a time of Vrishabh's convenience, right? So fortunately, I happen to be working at a place which respects, every individual's time. Uh, I needed to be outside at that particular hour because that's like a routine thing for me. Like this is something that I end up doing every day, every evening, right? During that particular slot of the day, I am outside, which means I am outside no matter what, unless there's something which is already scheduled, and then for that I need to, uh, you know, uh, adjust my day so that I end up doing that walk, activity some other time, right? So that's that. Uh, so that's basically in a way like intelligence, right? So like how easily now the call being the call, it still has not happened yet as of when I'm recording this particular video, but for sure it will happen. It will happen at everyone's, after considering everyone's time and everyone's, you know, uh, uh, like time when people will be around, right? So that, of course, many examples to have this particular thing, and yeah, so that I think concludes this video. This video having my thoughts on this particular episode of The Seen and the Unseen. Uh, I would recommend, do definitely do check out. But again, for my own sake, I would say that let's just take a look at this particular thing. Let's try to explore what really are the links which are there in the show notes. So not many links, because the example, the whole episode is like 2 hours long. It's quite a short one as compared to the episodes that he ends up having. So, like, this is the story of Gurwinder, what really happened, what has been happening in his life. So, that's that. Uh, we did see the article that why smart people believe stupid things, the perils of audience capture. Skin in the Game, the book. Haven't read it. Uh, but yeah, Would like to read him. In fact, I haven't quite read anything from Nicholas Taleb, right? So let's see. Super forecasting is something I've read. Let's see what this is. The Looking Glass Shelf. Okay, created by, the sort of sounds like something to do with, Alice in Wonderland, through the looking glass or something like that, but not sure what this is. So, the term looking glass self was created by American sociologist in 1902, introduced into him, described as our reflection, how we think we appear to others, takes into account 3 steps when using the looking glass self. Step 1 is how one imagines one looks to other people. Step 2 is how one imagines the judgment of others based on how one thinks they view them. Step 3 is how one thinks of how the person views them based on their previous judgment. Makes sense. I think based on the serotonin levels in your own body, you sort of react to different situations in different particular ways. So I remember there's like a cafe which I end up visiting pretty frequently, and there are times when it's like my by default cafe. Like, this is the place where I'm going to meet or have meetings with people with whom I like to spend time, right? Uh, Now it's almost like I visit this cafe at least twice every month. So if I see the trend through the last couple of months, uh, now oftentimes what also happens is I end up seeing someone who's there at the cafe, uh, who I already know, and this is not a person who I meant to you know meet, right? But then bump into someone, right? So there are times when I feel, very happy when I visit the cafe, and then there are times where I feel a little bit anxious when visiting the same place. There are times when, a conversation with someone would have been a little bit intense. We talked about a lot of, stuff, and then while leaving the cafe, I'll probably have a different emotion, right? Sometimes if I'm meeting someone for the first time, then at the same cafe, I'll have a different emotion. I might be a little bit nervous, right? And then also, so since there's like a passage which you need to enter, and then you take up your seat at the cafe. uh, there are times when I end up looking at other people who are sitting at the cafe. But then there are also times when I'm very focused internally, that I'll not bother to look at the people who are sitting at the cafe. So there's that. And then, of course, to some extent, I sort of also end up thinking that, okay, how do I look? I do become a little bit self-conscious, right? Uh, so yeah, that's there's that. There's this person whose YouTube channel that we are seeing. Let's see what this is about. Kind of mukbang. Right, so it's a mukbang challenge. It's a mukbang channel. And again, nothing quite related to what this thing is, but yeah. God is not great. Looks like it's a book. Okay. And formidable eloquence and rhetorical energy to most Okay, devastating critique of religious faith. Right. So, decent enough good book recommendation. Okay, good book, good book. Coding of American Mind, another book as well. How good intentions and bad ideas setting up a generation for failure. Again, interesting stuff. Good book. Just adding stuff to my wish list. Biologist explains why sex is binary. And the last one is three types of politics. Arnold King, talking across political divides. Right? Again, just adding to my wish list. Okay, and looks like this is an article. It will hit the paywall, I think. Yep, we have paywall. So, in effort to confuse the issue, gender ideologues cite rare ambiguous intersectionality. Transgender movement has left intelligent Americans confused about sex. Asked to define the word woman in a Supreme Court confrontation last hearing, Ketanji Brown Jackson demoed saying, "I'm not a biologist. I'm not a biologist. I'm here to help." Real and whatnot, right? So basically questioning, uh, uh, like okay, some this of course someone trying to question if the only the two genders that we have, are they enough, versus there's this biologist who just according to the limited information that I have, uh, I'm guessing there's this biologist who must have confirmed that this whole thing is just to
A
an
biologist explains why sex is
I think I can listen to the article, but okay. Right. So yeah, that is basically the episode. Like the episode, do check out. Of course, I talked about some points, but then there are points in the episode which are uh talked in a lot more detail in the whole thing. So it's quite good. It's quite a good episode. Like the episode, also not a long one. In case you've not really checked out any of Amit Varma's content, then I think this is a good start, right? Uh, and yeah, just know that you are wrong. I, sort of try to go with what exactly is the definition of intelligence here. Try to believe me. Try to believe whatever I say. Do not try to believe whatever I said. But in any case, if you happen to check out till the very end of it, but do make sure that you tell me that you saw the video and whatever you thought about it. So yeah, the next video that I'll be recording on is about looking at life, looking at things, looking at the daily life through, particularly the daily life through a Sisyphean analogy, right? So quite a lot of personal experiences there as well. So I'll be talking about a lot of stories that came out through an experience, uh, and then I'll cover in that particular video. So yeah, for now, ciao, take care. I'll see you folks in the next video. Goodbye.